as we continue on with the story of Noah's Ark. And again, for those of you joining us the first time, we're looking at this story poetically, looking at what this story might mean, what it might be asking us to picture in terms of what goes on in our own lives as we face storms. And the storm, we're picking up the story here in Genesis 7, and the storm has started, and it's this really beautiful, instructive piece. So the storm starts, the rain starts to fall, and at the same time, Noah and his family enter the ark, enter this what would look like a boat. And they enter this ark, and there's a beautiful symbolism here. And to get at that beautiful symbolism, I want to sort of backtrack a little bit around pain and suffering. One of the statements, I hear a lot, and I imagine a lot of you have heard is, pain is a given, suffering is optional. And there are times where that's true. And I would be like super, super careful with that statement. Because folks, like imagine the deep losses you've struggled with in your life. And we all have them, right? Those deep losses, suffering's not optional. Suffering and pain are directly tied into the degree of love. And the more we love something or someone or a community, the more we love, the more we'll grieve, and the more pain and suffering will be there. And it's not a choice. There are times for the conversations around like, all right, time to move on. There are times for those conversations, and you don't want to get mired in pain and suffering, obviously. But the idea that we can control pain and suffering is dubious at best. And I would just urge us all to be super careful around that statement that pain is a given, suffering is optional. I have not found that to be true in either my work or my personal life. If we love greatly, we will also experience great suffering. In fact, I think the degree of suffering is a mark of the degree of love a great deal of the time. So with that, folks, it's if we go through that, we understand, pain and suffering is part of that. And you think of that as the storm, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. The storm's raging, the animals are screaming, like all this stuff is happening. What is it that we can maybe think of doing? And it's a simple one. This is not going to be complicated. What is it that can enter deep into our hearts? And think of this as Noah. What is it that can enter deep into our hearts in times like this? And this is where we pick up a piece of from Emanuel Swedenborg with his biblical commentary called Secrets of Heaven. Talks about the nature of the spiritual person, in whom charity is the essential quality of faith and takes it as a basis of action. Charity is the essential quality of faith and takes it as the basis of action. That's what Swedenborg is putting out there for us to consider as that Noah part. And I love this idea. Like, here's this big giant boat, all these animals on it. And think of that again poetically. Storm is starting, and you just have this little small family enter. And yet this family's really the core of everything. And this core is that core, as it says here. It's about a faith where charity is the essential quality, where in other words, service. It's a faith based on service. It's based as best we can on how can we reach out to help other people as best we can. And when we're in the midst of like the deepest of suffering and pain, I think there's very little we can do in terms of suffering. One author, Kate Ballard, noted this, and I love this phrase. She called it the accidental narcissism of pain, which is true. When we're really in pain, it is almost impossible to see outside of anything but our own selves, and nothing wrong with that. I think that's just the very nature of pain and deep suffering. And at some point in time, we have to allow that little bit to enter that will start to free us up, that little kernel or core or seed or spark or flame, like you fit the word that works for you there, that starts to just think, okay, got it. This is really hard. Got it. I'm in deep pain. Got it. I'm suffering. Got it. There's suffering because there's a lot of love that's struggling right now. Got that. And at that same time, can we start to look outward in a gentle, soft spirit of service? And that has to go to the very center of the ark, quote unquote, this thing that's going to get us through the storm. It doesn't mean we're always able to do it. I want to be clear and reinforcing that point. But I think it's important to welcome that particular piece into our heart, because that will start to become like that's the seed that when we reach dry land that God is going to be planting in brand new ways. It's taking that seed, it's moving on to new lands, and it'll be planted in new ways that are pretty incredible. You know, have I seen that in the past? Absolutely. I've seen people who have struggled, and then they eventually get to the point of like, well, what am I going to do with this pain? And it takes a long time. Like there's nothing overnight, and there's nothing that says this is how you must do it. And a lot of the time I have seen that. People go through a huge struggle, and what they decide to do on the back end is to help in some way. And that could be volunteering at some place. That could be I mean, I've seen people go so far as to start nonprofits, because that pain and that suffering has led to something, and it's led to this thing of the question, what can I do? What can I do in the midst of all this? So that's a thought for today, folks. And it's just important to see it as a seed, not to hear it as any guilt, or not to hear it as like, you need to get out there and serve. That's not it at all. This is just a gentle, it gets back to Wesley's beautiful line, hearts gently warmed. This is just something that we need to allow to start warmly, start gently warming our hearts as we start to move forward in life with the inevitable pain and suffering that we will all experience in these times of flood. So that's the thought. That's the thought for today, folks. So pain and suffering, what can we do? There's that answer for you. Hopefully that makes some sense for you. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little prayer, a little meditation, a little prayer, a little blessing. And then we do have time today to say a little hello to folks on social media. So if you do leave a comment, you may leave it on New Church Live's Facebook page, and that's where I'll be reading from. You can also leave it on my Facebook page as well as on the other streaming platforms that we use. So with that, friends, let's get a little breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's get a little cheery hello and see if we got some comments today. And again, I hope you're enjoying the day mightily. Yep, sorry about that. There we go. All right. Linda, good morning to you. I hope you're doing well, my friend. I'm looking forward to that little group dinner we got coming up. Martha, good morning to you. And I'm taking by those symbols that you have a very sunny day out there in Michigan, which is wonderful. Paige, good morning to you. I hope you're doing well. Sherry writes, happy Thursday. How was book club last night? It was really, really good. We looked at it's a great question of where have you witnessed beauty, And then how's that connected to an ache? Like, it's interesting how we see something that's beautiful, and there's also this little ache there too. And C.S. Lewis held that that's because we want to be in the beauty, we want to live in it. Just really a lot of beautiful stuff to think about there. So thank you for asking that. Patricia, great to see you joining us this morning. Jean, good morning to you, my dear friend. Linda writes, deep loss brings deep pain and suffering. I think service is planting seeds in myself and others. I think suffering leads to deeper compassion. It is really interesting that I think suffering leads to deeper compassion. And just throwing this your way there, Linda. So compassion, the word actually technically means to suffer with, which I find very fascinating. Tina, you are welcome, and I hope it brings a little balm to your soul today. And the final one is a wish. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Totally agree with that. So, folks, whether you're watching us live or archived, I'm wishing you all the very best. You know me, you have a day where you allow that little piece, that little breath of service is the basis of faith. Just be in your heart, no matter what you're struggling with today. So take care, friends. God bless. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.